The Galactic Council hovered in orbit above Varus Prime, a sphere of cold light circling a dying sun. Inside its crystal chamber, ambassadors from 20 species gathered beneath the dome that showed the slow swirl of nebulae beyond. The discussion had lasted for 9 days. It was always the same topic: humans. They spread like corrosion, hissed the delegate from the Seraphine clade, translucent wings fluttering with irritation. No respect for territory, for law, for stability. They turn wastelands into colonies without permission or thought. They're unpredictable, another added. They mine radioactive planets. They breathe poisons. They fight one another for sport. At the center, High Marshal Kravax of the Threxian Dominion rose to his full height, silver scales catching the light. They are a primitive infestation, he declared. We've tolerated their chaos long enough. It's time someone brought them to order. A silence followed. No one disagreed. The Threxians had been enforcers of galactic peace for 10 millennia. If Kravax said the humans must be disciplined, the Council would not argue. Will the Dominion act? The chair asked. Kravax inclined his head. It will be swift. I'll lead the armada myself. Across the system, on the red plains of Mars, General Elias Corrin watched the transmission end. The image of Kravax's reptilian face faded into static. Around him, officers shifted uneasily in the command chamber, young, tired, outmatched. The war hadn't even begun, yet everyone could feel its weight pressing in. They've decided then, said Captain Reyes, her voice low. We're next. They've decided, Corrin confirmed. His expression didn't change. The man rarely raised his tone or wasted a word. He'd seen too many battles for emotion to mean anything now. How long before they crossed the frontier? 3 weeks, said Lieutenant Dow. Maybe less. Their ships are massing in the Ezer Gate. Fleet strength? 10,000 war cruisers. Fully armed. A bitter laugh escaped one of the younger officers. We've got 200 patched freighters and a handful of dreadnoughts that still need repairs. Corrin didn't smile. We've always been outnumbered. He turned toward the wide viewport. The Martian horizon glowed faintly under a dust storm, dull red against black space. Somewhere out there, behind that horizon, Earth hung in silence, unaware that extinction was again on its way. In the Threxian command fortress, Kravax studied human war footage. The images were grainy, low-orbit drone captures of mining settlements resisting pirate raids. Humans fought with improvised weapons, flame jets, mining lasers turned into cannons, oxygen tanks rigged as bombs. They looked feral, desperate. It amused him. He turned to his adjutant, a younger officer named Valrek. They build weapons from trash and call it bravery. Valrek bowed slightly. Primitive species often mistake panic for courage. Kravax's jaw tightened in what passed for a smile. Then they'll panic once more, before they burn. Back on Mars, the lights dimmed in the war room as a holographic map of the Sol system appeared. Red dots marked human ships. Blue marked the Dominion Armada, hundreds already beyond Pluto's orbit. They'll hit the outer colonies first, Reyes said. Then Ceres. After that, they'll come for Earth, Corrin finished. Always the same pattern. Strike the soft edge, move to the heart. And we can't match their weapons, Silva added from the data console. Their shielding tech is a century ahead. Their plasma yields could shatter continents. Corrin studied the map. Then we don't fight where they expect us to. We'll hit them in ways they've never trained for. Guerrilla warfare? Reyes asked. Worse, he said. Human warfare. The first attack came without warning. A Dominion scout group descended on the mining colony at Ceres. The outpost held 10,000 civilians, miners, engineers, families. They had one defense frigate. Kravax had sent 20 destroyers. The broadcast lasted 7 minutes. No one survived. But so did none of the destroyers. The Threxians found wreckage orbiting Ceres, metal twisted into lethal clouds, detonated by the colony itself. They had turned their reactors into bombs rather than surrender. Kravax watched the footage in disbelief. They annihilated themselves. Valrek tried to explain. Fear, Marshal. They feared capture. Kravax's claws scraped against the table. Fear should make them crawl, not fight harder. When the report reached Mars, silence filled the command center. Corin's expression didn't change, though a muscle in his jaw tightened. They blew themselves up, Dao said quietly. Everyone. They made a choice, Corin replied. If you can't win, you make the other side pay for victory. Was it worth it? Reyes asked. Corin's gaze turned toward the red sandstorm swirling outside. It will be, if the enemy learns to hesitate. Within days, humanity changed. Every factory, every mining ship, every orbital rig was repurposed. Civilians became workers, workers became soldiers. Scrap metal became armor, satellites became bombs, cargo ships were hollowed and turned into missile carriers. The chaos frightened even human governments, but Corin kept it coordinated. At night he sent encrypted messages to scattered admirals. Unite under Iron Dust command. Forget borders. Forget rank. Every ship answers to survival. He slept 3 hours a night. His officers slept less. Across the colonies, people began painting crude emblems, red dust clouds shaped like fists, onto hulls and helmets. They called themselves the Iron Dust Fleet. In the following week, panic swept through civilian networks. The Council's propaganda streams showed Kravax's fleet as invincible, moving in perfect lines through space. Every world they passed bowed or burned. One broadcast showed human envoys pleading for negotiation, cut off mid-sentence as the Threxian logo replaced their faces. Yet among soldiers and miners, something else grew: anger. Silva showed Corin intercepted chatter. They're scared, but they're staying, she said. Volunteers from the outer moons, even from Europa's domes. People who've never seen a battlefield. Good, Corin said. They'll fight like they have nothing to lose. Reyes frowned. You think we can win? I think we can survive, he said simply. That's enough for now. Days later, the Dominion fleet breached Neptune's orbit. Kravax ordered live transmissions of his approach broadcast across human networks. Psychological warfare. On Mars, every screen went black except one, Kravax's towering figure addressing humanity directly. I offer you mercy, the alien voice boomed. Surrender your worlds. Submit to the Dominion. You'll live to serve. Resist, and your species will vanish. Corin listened in silence, then turned to the camera feed and spoke back, voice calm, deliberate. You think we fear extinction? We were born from it. His reply spread faster than the Dominion's message. It wasn't bravado, it was a statement of fact. The Threxians advanced, destroying orbital defenses at Saturn. Corin began deploying his trap, a lattice of EMP satellites hidden within Jupiter's magnetosphere. Civilian freighters disguised as derelict mining rigs drifted nearby, carrying millions of tons of high-density plasma charges. Every sensor showed them as debris. Reyes approached him late that night, exhaustion visible in her eyes. If this doesn't work, it will, Corin said. And if it doesn't, then history will say we went down fighting like gods. In the Threxian war chamber, Kravax reviewed the reports. Another ambushed patrol, a supply ship hijacked, crew missing. They fight like animals, Valrek muttered. No, Kravax said quietly, eyes narrowing. Animals fight for food. They fight for something worse. He stared out the viewport where human space waited in the dark. They fight because they remember extinction. On Mars, alarms sounded, early detection from Jupiter. The Dominion armada was coming. Corin stood alone for a moment before the viewport, the dust storm gone, revealing the cold stars. He whispered to himself, almost prayer-like. Let them come. He turned to his officers. Begin Operation Iron Dust. Outside, ships ignited one by one, streaking toward the blackness between worlds. The war for humanity's survival had begun. Jupiter filled the viewport like a living storm, its red eye swirling with silent fury. Beyond the planet's clouds, the Threxian armada approached in perfect order, thousands of warships moving as one, each shining under the reflected light of Sol. The Dominion fleet was a wall of precision. To them, war was mathematics. General Elias Corrin stood on the bridge of the Resolute, his flagship, a refitted cargo dreadnought still scarred from old battles. Around him, his crew watched the incoming data feed. Captain Reyes leaned over the console, reading sensor pings that multiplied every second. "They're here," she said quietly. Corrin didn't blink. "Hold formation. No one fires until I say." Lieutenant Dow frowned. "Sir, they'll see us as easy prey. The fleet looks scattered." "Exactly," Corrin replied. "Let them think chaos is a weakness." He turned to the window. Tiny flashes glimmered far ahead, ion drives igniting, the vanguard moving into attack formation. He knew what the aliens were thinking, that this would be over in minutes. They didn't understand the trap waiting inside the storm. In the Threxian flagship Dominion's Claw, High Marshal Kravax observed his display. Human ships drifted without pattern, as though commanded by fools. "They don't even maintain formation," he muttered. Valrek, his adjutant, bowed. "Permission to engage?" "Granted." "Wipe them from orbit." The command fleet accelerated, heavy cannons charging. Energy readings flared on every sensor across the human grid. The sky above Jupiter shimmered, electric blue waves dancing across its magnetic field. Then, for a heartbeat, every Threxian console flickered. Kravax growled. "Report. Unknown interference, Marshal. Magnetospheric flux exceeding projected range." The readings surged again, chaotic, pulsing. Jupiter's radiation belt screamed with activity. Kravax's eyes widened as he realized the truth. "They're using the planet's field." Corrin's voice cut through the calm channels. Phase 1. Light the storm. Hidden drones emerged from behind Jupiter's moons, hundreds of metallic shards, once mining satellites, now armed with pulse generators. They activated in perfect sequence. The magnetosphere ignited, turning space into a churning sea of plasma arcs. Electric fire crawled over Threxian hulls. Shield systems shorted out. Several ships lost control, spiraling toward the gas giant's gravity well. "Phase 2, Corrin ordered. Asteroid fragments disguised as debris exploded, releasing swarms of automated rail drones. They targeted disabled cruisers, striking from all angles. The void flashed with violent bursts. On the Dominion's Claw, Kravax clutched the railing as the deck trembled. "How many ships?" 70 confirmed losses, Marshal." "In the first volley?" he demanded. Valrek hesitated. "Their strategy, it's unpredictable. They're using the storm as a weapon." Kravax slammed a clawed fist on the table. "Find their command ship. Crush it." But every scan returned false readings. The storm distorted sensors, scattering signatures across the system. The Dominion had entered a battlefield designed to lie. Hours passed in chaos. The Resolute shuddered as debris struck its hull. Corrin's crew worked silently, faces lit by blue lightning outside. Reyes reported over the comm. "Fleet 7 lost contact. We're down to 60% capacity. Keep firing in bursts," Corrin replied. "Don't waste energy on shield projections. Their systems can't adjust that fast." "Sir, we're losing too many." "I know," he said. His voice remained calm, but his hand trembled on the command rail. Every death was necessary. Every sacrifice bought time. The tactical holo updated, enemy clusters collapsing under internal confusion. Corrin watched patterns break apart, once perfect formations dissolving into disarray. Hours later, silence fell. The plasma storm dimmed. Out of 10,000 Threxian ships, only half remained functional. Corrin's fleet was nearly destroyed, but Earth still stood. On the Dominion's Claw, Kravax sat alone in his command throne. The bridge smelled of burned circuits and ozone. His officers avoided his gaze. "They fight like no other," Valrek said finally. "Every loss becomes part of their next tactic." Kravax turned slowly. "Losses teach discipline. But theirs teach madness." What kind of species makes war like this? The kind that doesn't expect to live through it, Valrek answered quietly. Kravax looked back to the fractured human formation. Then we'll teach them to fear order again. The Dominion regrouped beyond the orbit of Callisto. Their ships, battered and darkened, formed a defensive crescent. Kravax issued new orders: communication blackout, internal encryption, tactical silence. If they thrive on chaos, we will give them none. For 2 weeks, either side moved. Space around Jupiter became a graveyard of drifting wrecks. In that silence, humanity rebuilt. Wreckage was harvested for parts. Shipyards orbited hidden behind asteroids. Civilians volunteered to pilot unmanned drones, remotely controlling them from shelters on Mars and Earth. Every day, the fleet grew stronger, leaner, smarter. Silva approached Corin in the command bay one evening, her voice low. Sir, the AI intercept project is complete. We can imitate Thraxian encryption signals now. Corin nodded slowly. Then it's time for the next phase. Days later, Kravax's fleet received a distress call from one of their own ships, the Vorik Blade, reporting ambush by human forces. Kravax ordered immediate support. 10 cruisers jumped to the coordinates. There was no Vorik Blade. Instead, automated decoys surrounded them, broadcasting false Thraxian signals. The cruisers opened fire on one another in confusion. When Kravax received the report, his claws trembled. How did they know our encryption codes? Valrek said nothing. The look in his eyes told him what Kravax refused to believe: humans were inside their systems. The attacks multiplied. Ghost transmissions whispered across Dominion channels, voices imitating officers, giving contradictory orders. Retreat to safe orbit. Advance to strike range. Execute Marshal Kravax's directive. Ships collided. Formations dissolved. Panic spread. Kravax ordered executions of anyone accused of disobedience. Entire crews were purged. Yet the chaos worsened. His once perfect armada was rotting from within. On the Resolute, Corin stood over the holotable, watching red markers vanish one by one. Each represented a destroyed enemy ship. His officers looked exhausted but alive. Reyes whispered, "You've turned them against themselves." He didn't answer. Victory wasn't satisfaction, it was a calculation. Send this message to all command units: do not pursue. Let them retreat. Fear will do the rest. Dow frowned. You're letting them go? They'll run straight to Earth, Corin said. That's where the real fight begins. 2 weeks later, a captured Thraxian officer was brought aboard. The alien scales were cracked, its eyes hollow. Corin studied him through the glass of the interrogation room. The Thraxian armada emerged from hyperspace like a wall of thunderclouds. 10,000 ships eclipsed the stars, their engines casting a crimson glow over Earth's pale blue curve. From orbit, the planet looked fragile, too quiet, too undefended. To High Marshal Kravax, it resembled prey frozen before the strike. Target every major city, he ordered. His voice was steady, but the bridge crew heard something new beneath it: strain. We end this infestation tonight. Yes, Marshal. Valrek's claws tapped the console. All bombardment batteries primed. Kravax stared through the viewing glass at the distant speck of humanity's homeworld. Transmit my message to their leader. I want him to hear it before he burns. On the Resolute, alarms whispered softly. The fleet floated just beyond lunar shadow, silent as stone. No engines, no transmissions. The crew barely breathed. In the center of the command deck, General Elias Corin stood with his hands clasped behind his back, watching the enemy fleet move into firing range. Signal from the Dominion flagship, Reyes said. It's him. Put it through. Kravax's holographic form filled the air, scaled, regal, eyes like molten glass. General Corin, he said, his voice carrying through the bridge like a blade. Surrender your world. Spare your people the agony of resistance. Corin didn't answer at first. The silence stretched. Then he stepped forward. You won't survive a war with humans, Marshal, he said evenly. No one ever does. Kravax sneered. You mistake defiance for strength. You have no ships, no defense grid, no allies. Corin gave a faint nod. You're right about the first two. But you forgot to mention one thing: time. Before Kravax could reply, the transmission cut. The Dominion fleet advanced, weapons igniting in synchronized arcs. From orbit, it looked like a second sunrise, thousands of plasma lances charging in unison. Valrek's claws trembled over the firing key. Targets locked, Marshal. Commence cleansing. The command echoed through every vessel. Energy flared. Bolts streaked toward Earth, tearing through the upper atmosphere. Entire continents lit up in blue fire. Then, all at once, the light vanished. Valrek blinked. Impact visuals are gone. No detonation readings. Kravax leaned forward. Explain. Marshal, our sensors are malfunctioning. One after another, Dominion ships began reporting blackout conditions. Their targeting arrays fried. Their shields glitched. Navigation spun uselessly. In orbit around Earth, massive arrays hidden within old communications satellites came online, thousands of mirrored panels, ancient solar collectors refitted for war. They unfolded like a swarm of silver wings, reflecting sunlight with pinpoint precision. Corin's voice reached every open channel. Phase 1 Mirror Storm. The sky ignited. Focused sunlight lanced through orbit, searing through Threxian hulls like molten knives. Entire cruisers melted within seconds. Others detonated as their reactors overheated. Ships scrambled to move out of the converging beams, but their navigation systems were blind. Shut down power relays! Valrek shouted. We're overheating! Kravax's voice cut through the panic. Hold formation! Override safeties! The Dominion fleet staggered, their coordination unraveling. Every attempt to recalibrate failed. Earth's electromagnetic net was jamming them from orbit. Then came the second strike. Phase 2, Corin ordered. A network of orbital drones, disguised for months as debris, activated quantum EMP fields. Invisible shockwaves spread outward, ripping through the Dominion's electronics. Engines died. Plasma cannons flickered out. The vast machine of Threxian war ground to silence. Kravax's flagship was the last to hold power. From its bridge, he watched in disbelief as his fleet disintegrated into chaos. How? He whispered. How did they do this? Valrek answered softly. They've turned their whole planet into a weapon. The Resolute emerged from lunar shadow, leading the surviving human fleet. Scavenged warships, patched transports, even mining barges advanced together, weapons flaring. Reyes smiled grimly. They can't fight back. Don't underestimate them, Corin said. Desperation isn't ours alone. He opened the general channel. All units, target engines, not hulls. No unnecessary slaughter. Human ships fired in measured volleys, dismantling the crippled Dominion vessels piece by piece. The silence of space was filled only by static and the hum of dying reactors. Kravax stood amid smoke and flame. His bridge was half destroyed. Valrek was gone, thrown by an explosion. Only a handful of officers remained. Marshal, one called. We've lost all propulsion. Hull integrity. Forget the hull, Kravax interrupted. His gaze fixed on Earth below, its surface glowing faintly through the haze. Open a line to the human flagship. Static crackled. Then Corin's image appeared, calm and solid amid the wreckage of war. Kravax's voice was barely audible. You should have begged for mercy. I don't beg, Corin said. I warn. Kravax's lips pulled back into a grim smile. Then deliver your warning. You came to cleanse us, Corin said quietly. But you never studied what we really are. We're the product of extinction, born from a world that tried to kill us every day. You can't conquer that. The line cut. Kravax sank back in his throne, the firelight flickering across his face. Around him, his empire burned. He closed his eyes. They fight like extinction never left them, he murmured, and the bridge went dark. Hours later, silence returned to orbit. What remained of the Dominion fleet drifted in ruins. Human recovery ships moved among the wreckage, rescuing survivors, enemy and ally alike. Reyes approached Corin. "It's over." "No," he said, watching the black horizon. "It never is. We just survived the next version of it." She hesitated. "You're sending aid pods to their ships?" "They're soldiers, not monsters." "Same as us." She looked at him, uncertain. "After everything they did?" Corin turned to her, expression unreadable. "If we forget what mercy looks like, we'll become them." Aboard the Resolute, the crew listened as the Galactic Council's emergency broadcast came through. The Council speaker's tone was cold, formal. "Effective immediately, humanity is designated a containment risk civilization. No species is to engage in direct conflict with them. Their methods are deemed existentially destabilizing." The message ended. Dow exhaled slowly. "Containment risk," he said. "That's their way of saying they're afraid." Corin said nothing. He simply watched the stars, the burnt trail of the battle stretching across the void. Weeks later, Earth's surface bore scars, ash plains where cities once stood, oceans clouded with debris. Yet the planet breathed still. Rebuilding began before the smoke cleared. The human spirit refused to pause. Corin walked through the ruins of New Alexandria, his boots crunching over broken glass. The sky above glowed faintly red as dawn climbed over the horizon. Reyes caught up beside him. "The Dominion's command has collapsed. Reports say their homeworld's in revolt." Corin nodded absently. "Empires that can't adapt don't last long." She studied him. "And what about us?" "We'll endure," he said. "But we'll never be innocent again." Later that evening, a recovery drone delivered a data core salvaged from Kravax's flagship. Corin played the final transmission. The voice was faint, recorded moments before destruction. "They are not conquerors. They are what the void feared would crawl from its cradle. If they survive long enough, they will shape the stars." The message ended. Corin stood in silence for a long time. Then he turned the recorder off and looked out toward the battered skyline. "Let's hope," he whispered. "We shape them into something worth saving." In orbit, the broken remains of the Threxian fleet drifted like a ring of ghosts around Earth. Some of their ships were being towed for study, others were left as warnings. The planet below pulsed with light again, factories reawakening, fires of industry rising from ashes. To the rest of the galaxy, the war had ended in horror. To humanity, it was proof of survival. Corin watched the sunrise from the command deck of the Resolute. The first true light after the war touched the battered hull and gleamed across the metal scars. "Report," he said. "All systems nominal. Civilian lines restored. Earth signal network back online." He nodded once. "Send the message to every colony, every ship." Reyes waited. "What message?" Corin's gaze stayed on the horizon. "Tell them we're still here." The words carried across the stars, faint but unbroken, a declaration that the galaxy would never forget.